The signal came at exactly midnight Greenwich Mean Time on a Tuesday that would be remembered forever in human history. In hidden laboratories and secret facilities around the world, quantum transmitters activated simultaneously and sent the same message to every connected human mind. Project Ascension begins now. Jae Sung had been Earth's most famous astronaut before the invasion. The Kalari had assigned him to oversee atmospheric monitoring systems because his experience with orbital mechanics made him useful for tracking their fleet movements. What they did not know was that Jae Sung had spent months secretly installing microscopic devices throughout their sensor networks. When the signal reached him, he was standing in the main observation deck of the primary Kalari tracking station. Around him, alien technicians monitored screens showing the positions of mining ships and patrol vessels across the solar system. Everything looked normal and peaceful. Jae Sung touched a hidden control panel and smiled. Every sensor in the facility went dark. At the same moment, mining supervisor Minho received the activation signal while walking through the main extraction facility in Chile. For months, he had watched human workers install tiny explosive charges in support pillars and power systems, while appearing to perform routine maintenance. The Kalari engineers had never suspected that their obedient workforce was systematically preparing their most important facility for complete destruction. Minho activated his quantum transmitter and sent a single coded pulse to every worker in the complex. The charges detonated in perfect sequence. The massive mining platform collapsed into the earth as carefully planned demolitions destroyed every piece of critical equipment. In less than 10 minutes, the facility that produced 30% of the Kalari resource output from Earth was reduced to twisted metal and smoking rubble. Teacher Mi Young was conducting a late evening study session for advanced human students when the signal reached her classroom. Around her sat 40 young people who had spent months learning Kalari military procedures and security protocols from their alien instructors. The students had asked countless questions about alien physiology and psychology while pretending to be fascinated by imperial culture. Now it was time to use that knowledge. Mi Young stood up and spoke a single word that activated quantum implants in every student in the room. Suddenly, 40 teenagers who had seemed harmless and eager to please became a perfectly coordinated strike team. They moved with trained precision to overpower the Kalari guards stationed throughout the educational facility. The aliens never had a chance to call for help or activate their weapons because the students knew exactly where to strike to disable alien nervous systems and motor functions. Within minutes, the facility was under human control, and the students were accessing alien communication equipment to coordinate with resistance cells across the city. But the most spectacular part of Project Ascension was happening high above Earth's surface, where something impossible was taking form in the darkness of space. For over a year before the invasion, aerospace engineer Wu Jin had led a secret project to develop nanotechnology beyond anything humans had ever attempted. His team had created microscopic machines smaller than dust particles that could link together to form larger structures and work as a collective intelligence. The Kalari invasion had actually helped this project by providing cover for mass production. While alien supervisors thought they were watching humans manufacture simple mining equipment and communication devices, the workers were actually building billions of nanoscale robots that could survive in the vacuum of space. Every day for 6 months, human workers had found excuses to go outside and release handfuls of these invisible machines into Earth's atmosphere. The nanobots had drifted upward on air currents until they reached the edge of space, where they waited in dormant mode for activation. Now, as the ascension signal reached them, the nanobots came alive. Commander Vextar was reviewing fleet status reports in his command center when his tactical officer suddenly turned from his station with confusion on his alien features. "Sir, something strange is happening with our sensor readings," the officer said. "We're detecting massive electromagnetic anomalies throughout the solar system." "What kind of anomalies?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir. The readings don't match any known natural phenomena or technology in our databases. It appears that space itself is somehow becoming more dense around our ships." Vexatar looked at the main display screen and felt a cold fear grip his hearts. The empty void around the Kalari fleet was beginning to shimmer and pulse with strange patterns of light. As he watched, the shimmering grew brighter and more complex. The patterns looked almost like neural networks or circuit boards made of pure energy. but that was impossible. Nothing could survive or function in the vacuum of space without massive life support systems. The nanobots had been designed to work together as a collective intelligence that could adapt and grow. As billions of them linked their processing power, the network became capable of calculations that surpassed even the most advanced Kalari computers. The first priority was to map every alien ship and weapon system in detail. The nanobots spread throughout the solar system faster than any conventional spacecraft could travel because they had no mass worth measuring and could accelerate using electromagnetic fields. Within hours, they had cataloged every piece of Kalari technology within 1 billion kilometers of Earth and identified the exact weaknesses that human scientists had predicted during months of careful study. Back on Earth, the resistance was moving with clockwork precision. In every major city, human workers who had seemed loyal and obedient for months suddenly revealed their true purpose. Communication centers fell as technicians. Like Taemin activated hidden control programs that gave humans access to all alien information networks. Transportation hubs were captured by mechanics and engineers who had spent months learning the exact locations of every critical system component. Military installations found themselves powerless as human maintenance staff disabled security systems and weapon platforms from within. The Kalari had scattered their forces across the planet in small groups because they never expected coordinated resistance from such a docile species. Now that decision proved to be a fatal mistake as thousands of isolated alien units found themselves surrounded and overwhelmed by humans who knew their exact capabilities and limitations. Young programmer Jin Woo had been assigned to maintain data systems at a major Kalari computer facility. For months he had smiled and followed orders while secretly installing quantum backdoor access to every alien network on the planet. When the ascension signal reached him, Jin Woo activated programs that gave the human resistance complete control over Kalari information systems. Suddenly human voices were broadcasting from alien communication equipment in perfect Kalari language. "We are the people of Earth," the broadcasts announced. "We reject your occupation and demand your immediate withdrawal from our solar system. You have 10 hours to begin evacuation procedures." The message played simultaneously from every Kalari communication device on the planet. Alien commanders tried desperately to shut down their own equipment, but discovered that humans had somehow gained administrative access to systems that should have been impossible to compromise. High above the planet, the nanobots were putting on a display that would have been visible from other star systems. The network had grown to encompass the entire space around Earth and was beginning to take on properties that human scientists had only theorized about. Individual nanobots were linking together to form larger and more complex structures. These structures combined to create even bigger assemblies. The assemblies merged into vast networks that functioned like mechanical organisms with distributed intelligence. What emerged was something that had never existed before in the known universe. A technological entity made of trillions of microscopic components but capable of thought and action on a planetary scale. Commander Vextar watched in horror as space itself seemed to come alive around his fleet. The strange shimmer had grown into visible structures that looked like vast webs or nervous systems made of light and energy. The structures were moving with obvious intelligence and purpose as they positioned themselves around every Kalari vessel. "Sir, our weapons systems are not responding," the tactical officer reported. "Something is interfering with our targeting computers and shield generators." The commander realized with growing panic that his mighty fleet was being neutralized by technology that should not have been possible. The humans had somehow created machines that could operate in space without life support and link together to form structures larger than planets. It was a level of technological sophistication that surpassed anything in the Kalari Empire. As reports poured in from across Earth about simultaneous resistance actions, Vextar understood that his species had made a terrible miscalculation. The humans had not been defeated by the invasion. They had been preparing for this moment since before the first alien ship had entered Earth's solar system. The quiet surrender had been part of an elaborate plan. The compliant workforce had been gathering intelligence and preparing weapons. The obedient students had been studying their enemies while pretending to embrace alien culture. Every human on the planet had been part of the most. 6 months had passed since the silver ships had come, and Earth looked like a completely different world. The Kalari had built their mining facilities in every mountain range and desert. Huge machines worked day and night pulling metals and crystals from deep underground. Human workers operated the equipment with perfect efficiency and never caused any trouble for their alien supervisors. The cities had changed too. Kalari buildings rose like gray towers above the old human structures. Alien patrol vehicles moved silently through the streets. At night, searchlights swept across neighborhoods, making sure everyone stayed in their assigned living areas. Heijin worked in a biochemistry lab that the Kalari had converted for processing rare Earth elements. Before the invasion, she had been one of Earth's leading experts in molecular engineering. Now she wore a simple work uniform and followed orders from alien technicians who barely understood the science behind their own equipment. Every morning, Heijin walked to work past the same checkpoint where a Kalari guard scanned her identification chip. Every morning she smiled and bowed respectfully. Every morning the guard waved her through without a second thought. What the guard could not see was the microscopic device embedded under the skin of Heijin's wrist. The device connected her nervous system directly to the quantum network that Ji-un had built before the invasion. Through this connection, Heijin shared everything she learned about Kalari technology with thousands of other scientists working in similar facilities around the world. Yuna had been an aerospace engineer before the conquest. Now she maintained the life support systems in the alien mining stations. The Kalari had kept her in this job because humans seemed to have a natural talent for understanding complex machinery. They were right about that, but not in the way they expected. As Yuna repaired air filtration units and power generators, she secretly installed tiny modifications that her quantum implant told her to build. Each modification was so small that alien scanners could not detect it. But when connected together, these tiny changes would allow the human network to take control of every important system on the planet. The Kalari thought they were watching lazy humans do simple maintenance work. In reality, they were watching the most sophisticated engineering project in human history. In a small apartment in what used to be Tokyo, a family gathered around their dinner table. The father, Sung-ho, worked at a Kalari communication center. The mother, Ha-young, taught human children in the new educational facilities. Their teenage daughter, Nari, studied advanced mathematics under alien instructors who praised her quick learning. To any observer, they looked like a normal family, adapting well to life under alien rule. They spoke quietly about their daily work. They never mentioned resistance or rebellion. They seemed content with their simple lives. But every word they spoke contained coded information that flowed instantly through the quantum network. Sung-ho reported on alien communication protocols. Ha-young shared intelligence about Kalari plans for human children. Nari passed along mathematical formulas that her instructors used to calculate mining, yields and resource extraction rates. The family was one small part of a vast, invisible machine that connected every human on Earth. Young Sik had been a professional musician before the invasion. The Kalari allowed humans to keep some of their cultural activities as long as they didn't interfere with work schedules. So Young Sik still played his guitar in small concerts for other human workers. But the music was not just entertainment. Hidden in the melodies and rhythms were data patterns that updated the quantum network with new information. Every song was a message. Every concert was a briefing. The Kalari heard pleasant human music and thought it proved how well their subjects were adjusting to occupation. They never realized they were listening to the most complex communication system ever created. Commander Vextar received his daily reports with growing satisfaction. Earth's mineral extraction was exceeding all projections. The human workforce was performing better than the most optimistic estimates. No security incidents had occurred in over 4 months. The humans seemed genuinely grateful for Kalari leadership. Their crude, chaotic civilization had been replaced with efficient order. Their primitive technology had been upgraded with imperial systems. Their violent tribal conflicts had ended under unified rule. This is how conquest should work, Vextar told his staff officers. The local population recognizes superior culture and embraces it willingly. We should study this success and apply it to future campaigns. The staff officers agreed completely. They had all expected years of guerrilla warfare and terrorism from such a warlike species. Instead, the humans had welcomed their conquerors and worked hard to prove their loyalty. What none of the Kalari noticed was the strange behavior patterns in Earth's electromagnetic field. Deep space sensors detected unusual quantum fluctuations in the planet's atmosphere, but the readings were dismissed as natural phenomena. The Kalari had no experience with quantum networking technology and could not recognize the signals, even when their instruments recorded them. Ji Yun worked alone in a hidden laboratory beneath the ruins of Seoul National University. Around her, hundreds of screens showed data flowing from every corner of the planet. The quantum network had grown far beyond her original design and now connected not just humans but every piece of technology that humans had touched. She watched mining operations in South America where human workers had secretly reprogrammed excavation robots. She monitored communication stations in Europe where human technicians had modified signal amplifiers. She tracked transportation systems in Asia where human mechanics had altered alien vehicle control systems. Everything was ready. Every piece was in place. The greatest coordinated action in human history was about to begin. But first they needed to know more about their enemy. Wu Jin had been a military intelligence officer before the surrender. Now he worked as a maintenance supervisor at the main Kalari command base. Every day he walked through sections of the alien facility that contained their most advanced technology and secret information. The Kalari trusted him completely. He had proven himself reliable and competent over many months of faithful service. They gave him access to areas that were normally restricted because human workers needed to repair equipment in every part of the base. Wu Jin used this trust to map every corridor and room in the facility. He identified the locations of weapon systems and shield generators. He recorded the daily routines of security personnel. Most importantly, he learned how the Kalari command structure operated and who made the critical decisions. All of this information flowed instantly through the quantum network to intelligence analysts like former Detective Su Young, who built detailed profiles of alien capabilities and weaknesses. The Kalari had made one crucial mistake. In their conquest of Earth, they had assumed that human surrender meant human defeat. They thought that compliance meant acceptance. They were about to learn the difference. In classrooms around the world, human children learned Kalari language and history with eager enthusiasm. Their alien teachers were impressed by how quickly young humans absorbed information and adapted to imperial culture. What the teachers did not understand was that human children were not just learning about the Kalari Empire. They were studying it. Every lesson became intelligence data that flowed through the quantum network to military strategists and tactical planners. The children asked innocent questions about alien technology and society. They requested detailed explanations of Kalari military organization and political structure. Their curiosity seemed natural and harmless to teachers who enjoyed sharing knowledge about their superior civilization. But every answer gave the human resistance more tools for the liberation that was coming. The network pulsed with activity as 8 billion minds prepared for the moment when Earth would stop pretending to be conquered and show the galaxy what humans could accomplish when they worked together. The symphony was almost complete, and soon the entire universe would hear humanity's true song. The silver ships came down from the stars like falling metal rain and covered the sky above every major city on Earth. Day One pressed his face against the thick glass window of his underground bunker beneath Seoul and watched the massive alien vessels hover silently above his home. The ships were huge beyond anything humans had ever built, and they blocked out the sun completely. For 3 days, the world held its breath. Television stations went dark. Radio signals turned to static. The internet died. Then on the 4th morning, a voice spoke in perfect English, Chinese, Korean, and dozens of other languages from speakers that appeared in every city square and street corner. "We are the Kalari Empire," the voice said. "Your world now belongs to us. You will surrender all weapons immediately. Your governments will report to our regional commanders. You will continue your normal lives under our guidance." Day One expected explosions and gunfire and desperate last stands. He waited for the military to launch fighter jets or fire missiles at the alien ships. He thought world leaders would give inspiring speeches about freedom and resistance. Instead, something very strange happened. Nothing. The governments of Earth sent messages of complete surrender within 6 hours. Military bases around the world shut down their weapon systems and opened their gates. Police officers put down their guns and went home to their families. Citizens walked calmly to designated meeting areas where tall gray aliens with silver armor registered them for work assignments. Ji-eun ran down the concrete steps into the bunker where her brother waited. She was breathing hard and her scientist coat was covered in dust from the collapsed university lab where she worked. In her hands, she carried a small black box that hummed with quiet energy. "The quantum network is active," she told Daewon. "Every node across the planet is connected and working. The signal is clean and undetectable." "What does that mean?" Daewon asked. "Are we going to fight back?" "Not yet," Ji-eun said, and her eyes had a strange calm look. "We wait, we watch. We learn everything about them. Then when the time is right, the whole world acts as one." Above ground, the Kalari commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked down at the blue and green planet below. In 40 years of conquest across 12 star systems, he had never seen a species surrender so completely and so quickly. Usually there were months of brutal fighting. Cities burned. Millions died before the local population accepted defeat. Earth was different. The humans had given up without firing a single shot. "This species is perfectly suited for manual labor," Vextar told his second-in-command. "They are docile, obedient, and intelligent enough to operate our mining equipment. We can extract the planetary resources in half the expected time." The Kalari had come for Earth's rare metals and crystal deposits. Their empire needed constant expansion and new materials to fuel their war machine. They had studied humans for decades through deep space probes and expected fierce resistance from a species that seemed to fight, constantly among themselves. Instead, the humans acted like they had been waiting for someone to take control of their messy, chaotic world. Within 2 weeks, the first mining operations began in the mountains of Chile. The Kalari supervisors were amazed at how efficiently the human workers learned to operate the massive extraction machines. The humans never complained about the long hours or dangerous conditions. They followed orders exactly and seemed grateful for the simple food and basic shelter they were given. Minho had been a construction manager before the invasion. Now he wore the gray uniform of a mining supervisor and carried a small device that translated his words into Kalari language. He walked among the human workers and gave them instructions from their alien overseers. "The machines need to dig deeper," the Kalari engineer told him. "The crystal deposits are 50 meters below the current level." Minho nodded and bowed respectfully. He turned to the human crews and repeated the orders. The workers bent over their controls and the giant machines roared to life, cutting deeper into the earth. What the Kalari engineer did not see was the tiny flicker of Minho's fingers as he passed each workstation. A quick touch to a concealed button, a few tap signals on a hidden device. Information flowing instantly to thousands of other workers across the planet. In Seoul, 12-year-old So Young sat in a classroom with 40 other children, learning Kalari history and language. The alien teacher showed them pictures of the great Kalari Empire and explained how humans would serve their new masters for generations to come. So Young raised her small hand and asked in perfect Kalari, "When will we be allowed to travel to other worlds?" The teacher seemed pleased by the question. "Exceptional humans who prove their loyalty may be selected for off-world assignments," he said. "You show great promise, young one." So Young smiled and bowed her head. Under her desk, her fingers moved across the surface of what looked like an ordinary school tablet. But the device was sending quantum, encrypted messages to her older brother Taemin, who worked at a communication facility across the city. Taemin maintained the huge antenna, arrays that connected Earth to the wider Kalari Empire. His human crew was responsible for keeping the signals clear and strong. The aliens trusted them completely because humans had proven so reliable and obedient. What the Kalari did not know was that every piece of equipment Taemin touched was secretly modified, with tiny components that Ji-eun's team had hidden inside during the manufacturing process. These components created an invisible network that connected every human on the planet. Restaurant owner Kyung-soo served meals to Kalari officers and listened carefully to their conversations. Librarian Yoonji organized books that contained microscopic data storage devices. Street cleaner Dong-hyuk mapped every alien patrol route and security checkpoint, while appearing to simply pick up garbage. Every human had a role. Every human was connected. Every human was waiting. The Kalari believed they had found the perfect slave species. The humans were intelligent enough to be useful, but lacked the warrior spirit that made other species difficult to control. They seemed almost happy to have someone else make decisions for them. Commander Vexitar received reports from all across Earth. Mining productivity was ahead of schedule. Human workers required minimal supervision. No incidents of rebellion or sabotage had been reported. The occupation was the most successful in Kalari history. 6 months after the invasion, Vexitar sent a message to the Kalari High Command. Earth pacification complete, local population fully integrated into Imperial workforce. Recommend immediate expansion of operations. The response came back quickly. Excellent work, Commander. Additional mining ships are being dispatched to your sector. Full resource extraction is authorized. Vexitar looked down at the planet below and felt satisfied. Soon Earth would be stripped of everything valuable, and the humans would be relocated to other worlds where they could serve the Empire. It was the natural order of things. The strong conquered the weak, and the weak served the strong. He had no idea that 8 billion humans were about to show him how wrong he was. The nanobots had grown beyond what even their creators had imagined possible. What started as billions of microscopic machines scattered through Earth's atmosphere had become a single vast intelligence that surrounded the planet like a living shell of organized matter. Commander Vexitar stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched his tactical displays show readings that made no sense according to known physics. The empty space around his fleet was alive with energy patterns that pulsed and moved like the neural networks of some impossible cosmic brain. Sir, the communication officer called out with fear in his voice. Something is trying to establish contact with us through our own transmission systems. That's impossible, Vexitar replied. Our communication frequencies are encrypted and protected by quantum barriers that no known technology can penetrate. Nevertheless, sir, we're receiving a signal on all channels simultaneously. The transmission is coming from the space around us, and it's speaking in perfect Kalari. Put it on the main speakers, Vexitar ordered, despite his growing dread. The bridge, filled with a voice that was unmistakably human in its emotional range and complexity, but spoke flawless Kalari, with pronunciation that surpassed even native speakers. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, as if space itself had learned to talk. We are Earth, the voice said, and each word carried the weight of 8 billion minds speaking as one. We are the children of this world, and we reject your claim to rule over us. Marine biologist Chan Wu had made the breakthrough that allowed the nanobots to communicate with alien technology. During months of studying captured Kalari equipment, he had discovered that their species used bioelectric fields to transmit information between brain centers. The nanobots could generate and modulate electromagnetic fields with perfect precision. By replicating the exact bioelectric patterns that Kalari brains used for language, the machine intelligence could speak directly to alien nervous systems in ways that bypassed their conscious defenses. When the sky spoke, every Kalari in the solar system felt the words not just through their ears, but resonating in their minds at frequencies that touched their deepest instincts and fears. You came to our world believing we were weak, the voice continued. You saw our surrender and thought it meant defeat. You were wrong. We allowed you to occupy our planet so we could study you and learn everything about your technology, your psychology, and your weaknesses. Commander Vexitar felt something he had never experienced in 40 years of military service. The voice carried emotional undertones that penetrated Kalari mental defenses and created responses that their species had evolved to suppress. Fear, uncertainty, and something even worse began to spread through his command crew. The voice of Earth was not just communicating information, it was weaponizing human emotion and using it against aliens who had never learned to cope with such raw psychological intensity. We know that your empire is built on rigid hierarchy and predictable order, the voice said. We know that you cannot function when faced with chaos and unpredictability. We are about to show you what 8 billion creative minds can accomplish when they work together. Dr. Sumin had spent the entire occupation studying Kalari behavior patterns and psychological responses. Her research had revealed critical weaknesses in alien mental structure that could be exploited by species with more flexible cognitive abilities. The Kalari had evolved on a world with limited resources and constant environmental threats. Their survival had depended on maintaining strict social order and following established procedures without deviation. Individual creativity and independent thinking were seen as dangerous disruptions that threatened group survival. Humans were the exact opposite. They thrived on novelty and change. They solved problems by generating multiple solutions and testing unconventional approaches. What looked like chaos to Kalari minds was actually a sophisticated form of collective intelligence that could adapt to any situation. Now the nanobots were amplifying this human creativity and directing it toward a single purpose. The result was technology that operated according to principles the Kalari could not understand or predict. Around the alien fleet, space began to change in ways that violated everything the invaders thought they knew about the universe. The nanobots were reorganizing matter at the molecular level and creating structures that shifted and evolved in real time according to human imagination. What appeared to be empty void suddenly sprouted tendrils of organized energy that reached toward Kalari ships with obvious intelligence and purpose. The tendrils moved with the fluid grace of living organisms, but were clearly artificial constructs that could manipulate physical laws in impossible ways. "Your weapons cannot harm us," the voice of Earth announced. "Your shields cannot protect you. Your engines cannot carry you beyond our reach. We control the very fabric of space around your vessels." Young programmer Jin Woo had achieved something that Kalari computer scientists would have declared impossible. Using quantum entanglement, principles that alien technology could not detect, he had created backdoor access to every electronic system in the invading fleet. The nanobots were now connected directly to Kalari navigation computers targeting systems and life support controls. Every piece of technology that the aliens depended on was under human control and could be modified or disabled at will. But the humans were not using this power to destroy their enemies. Instead, they were demonstrating something far more terrifying to the Kalari mindset. They were showing mercy combined with overwhelming technological superiority. "We could kill you all in seconds," the voice explained with calm certainty. "We could turn your own weapons against you or simply shut down the life support systems that keep you alive in the vacuum of space. But we choose not to because destruction is not our goal." This concept was incomprehensible to Kalari military doctrine. In their experience, superior force was always used to eliminate enemies completely. The idea of having godlike power and choosing restraint suggested a level of psychological sophistication that challenged everything they believed about warfare and conquest. Around the fleet, the nanobots began to demonstrate capabilities that seemed like magic compared to conventional technology. Ships found themselves surrounded by geometric patterns of pure energy that pulsed with mathematical beauty. The patterns were clearly artificial, but displayed an aesthetic sensibility that was completely alien to Kalari design principles. Artist Hyo Jin had worked with the nanobots to create visual displays that would communicate human cultural values to alien minds. The patterns told the story of human civilization through abstract representations of art, music, literature, and scientific discovery. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the darkness around them filled with images that showed the development of human society, from primitive cave paintings to advanced space technology. But unlike typical historical records, these images emphasized cooperation, creativity, and the gradual expansion of moral concern to include all sentient beings. "We are not like you," the voice continued. "We do not seek to dominate or exploit other species. We explore the universe to learn and create and share knowledge with anyone willing to engage in peaceful exchange. But we will defend ourselves against those who threaten our freedom." The nanobots began to dismantle Kalari technology piece by piece, while keeping the alien crews completely safe. Weapon systems were carefully dismantled and reconstructed into art installations that floated in space like cosmic sculptures. Shield generators were converted into devices that projected beautiful holographic displays, showing scenes of Earth's natural beauty. Commander Vextar watched his mighty warships being transformed into something that looked more like a traveling art exhibition than a military fleet. The humans were not just defeating his forces. They were turning the instruments of war into expressions of creativity and wonder. It was a form of psychological warfare that the Kalari had no defense against. Their entire worldview was built on the assumption that technological advancement led inevitably to more efficient methods of conquest and control. The idea that superior technology could be used primarily for artistic expression and peaceful exploration was completely outside their conceptual framework. "We are sending a message to every world in your empire," the voice announced. "We are sharing our music, our literature, our scientific discoveries, and our philosophical insights with all sentient beings in the galaxy. We invite them to join us in building a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. Environmental scientist Nay Young had designed systems that allowed the nanobots to repair ecological damage while demonstrating human values to alien observers. The mining scars left by Kalari operations began to heal as microscopic machines reorganized soil and rock into patterns that supported new plant growth. The aliens watched in amazement as barren landscapes transformed into gardens that displayed impossible beauty and complexity. Plants grew in geometric patterns that somehow maintained perfect ecological balance, while creating visual displays that surpassed anything in Kalari artistic traditions. We are showing you what is possible when intelligence is used to create, rather than destroy, the voice explained. We hope that your species will learn from this example and choose a different path than the one that brought you to our world. Neo-psychological. The nanobots had evolved far beyond their original programming, and were now expressing aspects of human nature that their creators had never expected. As the network expanded throughout the solar system, it began to display characteristics that reflected the full spectrum of human creativity and emotion. Philosopher and former politician Jun Ho had contributed ethical subroutines to the nanobots that prevented them from simply destroying the Kalari fleet. Instead, the network was demonstrating something that alien military doctrine had never encountered. It was showing overwhelming power combined with moral restraint. The Kalari ships found themselves completely helpless, but also completely safe. Their weapons had been disabled, and their engines shut down, but their life support systems continued to function perfectly. The nanobots were taking apart alien technology piece by piece, but depositing the crews on specially constructed platforms that provided food, water, and breathable atmosphere. It was the kind of mercy that terrified the Kalari more than any threat of destruction could have. Commander Vextar watched from his command bridge as his flagship was systematically converted into something that looked more like a space station than a warship. The nanobots worked with impossible precision to remove every weapon, system, and defensive shield while simultaneously installing art galleries and observation decks where his crew could watch the transformation of space around them. "This is not possible," he whispered to his second-in-command. "No species in the galaxy has technology that can manipulate matter at this level, while maintaining such precise control over every detail." But the evidence was floating all around them. The nanobots had created structures in space that were larger than planets, but